this Village of Greenhills Council meeting of June 28th, 2022 to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Lee?
Here.
Ms. Metz?
Here.
Ms. Walker?
Here.
Moore?
Here.
Hermes?
Here.
Halter? Here.
Prayer by Maria Walter.
Oh God, we remember the courage and determination of our founding fathers, and we remember the brave, patriotic men and women who gave so much for us. We thank them that we are a free nation and a free people. It is through them that we carry forward the ideals of justice, freedom, and democracy. Be with us and guide us in this 4th of July, and we pray in your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have the minutes of the council meeting of May 24th and the work session of June 14th. Minutes will stand approved if there are no corrections. All right, no public presentation, no public hearing. Reports from municipal officials, Municipal Manager Yvonne Kovac.
Thank you, Mayor. As I was looking through my packet, I realized I did not do the legislative reports. I want to take a few minutes to run through each of the items that are on the agenda tonight. The first resolution involves, it's actually the second piece of legislation council must enact in order for our renewal levy to go on the ballot this November. It's a 3.89 mil levy for current operating expenses, and we can talk a little bit more about that when you actually have that item in front of you. But you did pass the other one, at the last meeting, and yes, the information's been received back, so this is the second piece. The next resolution is in follow-up to the public hearing that council held at the June 14th work session regarding next year's, hard to believe, budget already. So this is the official document that will go down to the county. I believe it's by like July 20th. And we would not have another council meeting prior to that, so it is on your agenda for tonight. Third resolution is a supplemental, which we do have those quite often to make adjustments or transfers, I believe it is in this case, in the appropriation that you have already approved last December. The next resolution would authorize me to sign an agreement. This is the bids were received for our park and ride lot paving project, and Rack and Ballauer was the low bid. We had only received one other bid. If you remember, there were issues on people getting bids. It's hard to get bids right now because contractors are just fearful of extending themselves out too far with all of the price increases they're facing, though. But we did come in, I believe this is slightly over budget at $259. I think was the dollar amount for that. Mm-hmm. So, and the next...
What was the budget for it?
I believe it was, let's see, 116, 230, 232. And we're at 234. Do you have the numbers in front of you?
I do not.
Okay, yeah, because we received 116.6 was our grant, and it was a 50-50. So this, hold on a minute here. I got it. Oh, it's 259. So that would be what did I just say? 32. So it's up like 17,000. Which wasn't bad. The next one was like 344, significantly higher. So, then the next resolution also allows me to submit an application for the same funding, the transit infrastructure funding. We're going to try this year to get funding for Farragut and Enfield, the actual route that the bus takes for repairs to those roads, which are much needed at this point in time. So that is it for our legislation. The other item that I do want to spend a little bit of time on is the pool, which has finally opened, and thank heavens we're having some nice warm weather and good attendance. I think I mostly want to make some general comments at this point in time because we are still very much in a position of seeing where all our costs fall out, check in, and there's issues related to people wanting to know, can we add additional hours, will we give refunds? And I guess all I'll say is I'm sure we're going to do something very equitable, but we don't have all the data in yet and the answers for any extension. But should have that soon, so that will probably be another item at work session. But I also want to explain a little bit that the pool issues that we encountered were not like daily maintenance or routine maintenance items that could easily be remedied. The equipment that's involved is probably something that we would only get every 25 or 30 years. One of them was the $20,000 item that had to come from California. So, I don't want anybody to think like, we just weren't taking care of it or whatever. This was a totally unexpected issue that did come up and required a lot of people to work a lot of hours to coordinate it and get it back and up and running. We're grateful they did, and time still for a good chunk of the season. So as we get more information on all of these issues, I will keep you updated on it. Okay, that's all I have right now.
Okay. Comments or questions? Hall Director Jeff Forbes.
Thank you, Mayor. Just nothing really to report other than I did attend the Ohio Municipal League Regional Conference last week, where one of the things they talked about was that the General Assembly, state legislature, is on recess right now and likely will be until after the November election. But when they come back after that, like around November 14th or November, I forget the exact date, but when they come back after the general election, they're only there for about a month because that's what they call the lame duck session. And we'll need to pay particular attention during that time because that's when there's quite a bit of sort of horse trading that goes on to get all those bills that have been pending this whole term. That's sort of their last chance to get pushed through. If they don't get pushed through, then they die and they would have to be reintroduced in the next General Assembly. So nothing really to watch now, but after the election, there might be some interesting happenings.
So that's good news that they're out, bad news they're coming back.
I will say this, and I don't think he would mind me repeating it. The executive director of the Ohio Municipal League was there, gave a bit of a legislative update, and he was discussing the fact that there's quite a bit of disagreement between the House and the Senate at the state level. And dysfunction, I think, is what he called it. But he also said for municipalities, that's a good thing, because as long as they're dysfunctional, they won't get anything done, and as long as they don't get anything done, it doesn't interfere with your ability to continue your local government. So, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Okay, Clerk of Council, Teresa Lally.
None.
Okay. Chief of Police, Neil Fertelman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a number of programs that are coming up. We hope anybody that might be here tonight or watching may be interested in some of them. I think they're going to be really fascinating programs, but then again, we had a group that put this all together, so of course we think that. But let me throw them out to you and see what you think. The next program that we're going to have will be right here in the council chambers on July 19th at 7 o'clock. It's going to be called Know Your Rights. We actually had this topic suggested by one of our Greenhills citizens. And it's going to explore such topics as what is the castle doctrine? What does stand your ground mean? What's the latest on concealed carry? What should I do if I'm stopped by an officer? What I can tell you is that today's laws have changed dramatically, both by the legislature and by the courts. So what was legal yesterday may not be today or vice versa. So how in the world can you be expected to keep up with the latest changes? We'll come to our program, we'll tell you. So we hope that anyone listening that has any of these questions, we think it's going to be a very interesting, fast-moving 1-hour seminar. It's going to be hosted by our own Corporal Mike Mathis, who has probably about 30-some years' experience in law enforcement with both a bachelor's and a master's degree in criminal justice, and served a number of years as the Springdale police chief. So I think it'll be a very interesting program. Talk about a change in direction. The next program on July 23rd, which will be a Saturday program at noon, is called Game Time with GPD. We're going to be at the picnic shelter at Malloy's, right behind the swimming pool. This program will be open to children from 5 to mid-teens. We're going to start off by having pizza right at noon. We're going to have all kinds of games to play, everything from basketball, which, by the way, anybody listening, we're still looking for a portable basketball hoop that we can throw on one of our service trucks and take over and transport back. We'd love to borrow it for a couple hours. But we're going to have kickball, flying kites, board games, cornhole, just an opportunity to hang out with kids and have a good time. Also, to help that pizza be digested, we're going to have the Lindsay's shaved ice, which we had at the last Cooking with the Cops, and that's a really popular hit. The guy's got more colors than the rainbow has of his different flavorings, so it's really going to be fun, and we hope that if you're watching and you have little ones, that you're able to come. That is, by the way, a date change. It was previously going to be a week earlier, but it was going to be on Saturday, July 23rd, from noon until 3 o'clock. And speaking of Cooking with the Cops, we're going to do that again on National Night Out on August the 2nd. We'll have all kinds of grilled things for you to eat, whether it's just hot dogs or hamburgers and hot dogs, I'm not sure yet. But we invite back our celebrity chefs every year, hope they're available. And we'll also be there to help and have some other treats. Shaved ice will also be available. So we're going to have some cruisers there that families can take a look at. We'll have some fire apparatus there as well, and it should be a fun night. Going back again to the more serious, here back in this council chambers, on August the 11th at 7 o'clock, the program will be What Are We Doing About Drugs? And it's going to be presented by the commander of the Drug Abuse Reduction Task Force, which we are a member of. He happens to be the retired Springfield Township Police Chief. Very knowledgeable, and will have answers to questions about what drug trends that we have going on, what average citizens should be on the lookout for. If you have addiction in your family, what can you do to help with that? So it'll cover a whole range of information on that topic. And then also in August, on August 20th right here, we'll push the seats aside and roll out our mats, and we will have our defensive tactics class. That'll be taught by Greenhills Police Officer Carl Holbrook, who is a state certified self-defense instructor. He also teaches our officers how to defend themselves. So there'll be lots of tricks that you will be taught if you want to know what to do to keep yourself safe. Be a very interesting class. We'll also serve some water and fruit snacks during that course, but we hope that you would give us a call or sign up online so that you could be a part of that. Probably one of the big deals in terms of laws and legislation that's coming up is Ohio's new fireworks law becomes effective on July 1st. If you're a big fan of fireworks, you're going to love it, because you can just send off any kind of consumer grade firework. And if you want to know the definition of that, that can all be found on our website. If you're not a fan of fireworks, it's going to be a noisy New Year, July 4th for you. It will actually include fireworks that are set off on July 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And there's a whole list, which you'll find on our website, of holidays throughout the year. So consumers can discharge any consumer-grade fireworks. That has not been the case previously. So what we would urge is, we see a lot of people that are injured badly by fireworks that are maybe novices at setting them off. If you're not very experienced in handling fireworks, we recommend you go see a professional display. If you do choose to set them off, make sure that you're sober, because most of our accidents occur when people have had something to drink. Make sure that no person under 18 is around. They're not permitted to either handle or discharge fireworks. Aerial devices cannot be discharged within 150 feet of spectators, and no person can store in excess of 125 pounds of fireworks unless they have additional safety measures. They cannot be discharged indoors, aimed or discharged at any person or object. We don't want to have our fire department responding to put out roof fires. So as a final word, please be careful. We strongly recommend you enjoy professional displays. We'll see how this year goes because council does have the option of implementing stricter controls as we had previously, and that's something that I believe the manager will present to council as a work session in the near future. Shifting a little bit to some good news, there's a program called Lasagna Love, and we were very privileged to accompany council member Natasha Metz recently when a family in our F section received some lasagna. Since we were invited to participate, we threw in some gift cards to Kroger and another gift card, and we took some popcorn and some other treats, so we're hoping that that family enjoyed the love that was spread their way. Also, speaking of treats, they were brought to us. We had a group of residents from our B section that work at a company that is called Perfecto Mele, and they brought us a number of chips and Menthas and Airheads and different treats that we kept some and gave some out to some of our citizens, and particularly our youth. Each box was labeled, "We love our first responders," followed by, "We're grateful for the hard work you do to protect and serve our families, our jobs, and our communities." So we thank them for their generosity and kindness and for thinking of us. We continued some training in the spring. We sent Officer Jared Francis to Glock Firearms as a Glock armorer to care for and repair our departmental issued firearms. We sent Officers Holbrook, Mayberry, and Young to receive specialized training in evidence packaging from the Hamilton County Coroner's Laboratory. Our entire staff of sworn officers and our police clerk, Vonda Sequoia, received training on the law enforcement automated data system. Officer Rob Lenthoff received training as a rifle armorer from Smith & Wesson. And in May, all of our officers received training by taking 3 courses through the Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy. The first was a course in ethics and professionalism. The second was training in community diversity and procedure. And the third was a legal updates course. Finally, in terms of our crime statistics, during the month of May, we made 12 criminal arrests, including charges for unlawful sexual conduct with a minor, criminal mischief, disorderly conduct, operating a vehicle under the influence, failure to appear, possession of drugs, and open container. We responded to 177 incidents, including 25 squad runs, 12 warrant service attempts, 7 motorist assists, 7 noise complaints, 7 suspicious persons, 7 domestics, 5 animal complaints, 5 suspicious vehicles, and 5 lockouts. We provided mutual aid in 20 instances, issued 36 traffic citations, 34 warnings, and investigated 6 traffic crashes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Comments or questions of the chief?
I have a question to the chief. What is the situation or the status of the barrier to protect from accidents our light pole? Was there something that could be done in order for not to be totally in the dark for hours and hours if the power goes down due to an accident on Wyndham Road?
I don't know that I've been involved in an update with that. I know the manager has referred that to, I believe, a traffic contract engineer. We're talking about any kind of a barrier down around Winton and Andover.
Oh, in the curve?
Yes.
Yeah, right. We're still working on it.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Chief, if you could just recap the events on single line and dates. I think I got them all, but I think it might be good for everybody.
Okay, sure. Absolutely. Know Your Rights is July 19th at 7 o'clock. And Game Time with GPD is July 23rd from noon until 3. Cooking with the Cops on National Night Out is August 2nd at 6 p.m. The drug presentation will be August 11th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Defensive Tactics will be August 20th, and there's a follow-up class on October 15th as well. And to make it even handier, it's all on our website in a list format.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mayor's report, I have the Mayor's Court receipts. The state of Ohio received $1,529 from the village. Hamilton County, $60. And the village of Greenhills, $68.81.83. That's all I have. Okay. Reports of committees, community development, Jeff Ballauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to announce that on July 8th at 2 o'clock, there's a community development meeting. We'll talk about the recreation coming up. And then I did have less on the report side and more on the question side. I did notice there's some graffiti on the apartment buildings on Farragut. Same markings on the Farragut Street side, but also on the community, the backyard behind there. So I just wondered if how, in times past, I know that my group, when they had beautification, actually painted part of the shopping center graffiti before some of the events. But if you could just tell me what the procedure is, if we have anything from a zoning standpoint, or try to get those to be painted over.
And I would have to check with our code enforcement to see if he's taken action with the property owner at this point in time.
Okay.
So I'll check on that for you.
And I can
let you
give you
know.
a specific address, if
Okay.
that's helpful. And then, and they probably should have done this during your report, but the park progress, is there anything happening as far as the pathway and stuff for the park that we were going to do in place of the golf course?
We're still kind of in the same holding pattern, but as far as I know, it's all moving forward. slow for the funding
Okay.
portion of it, yes.
Okay. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Intergovernmental Affairs, Laws and Rules, Maria Walter.
We just met today. We started the meeting at 6 o'clock and we ended at 6:35. Present were Mr. Moore, Ms. Kovac, Ms. Hermes, Mr. Forbes, and Chief Furman. We talked about the chronic nuisance property on premises, and we talked the fact that it needs a little bit more of work on it, and Mr. Forbes is going to be presenting something later on at a later date. I also, we have for the work session a couple of items. We have the saying and writing the name and the address instead of saying it, or something that will not have the impact of your face, your name, and your address at the same time, perhaps writing it, but it's something that we have to discuss at a work session. Several residents have come to me, male and female equally, that sometimes is the concern that they have, and that's why they will not want to come forward. Also, we have, as old business, it was going to be taken care of. It's just one of the code for inoperable vehicles is a digital version. It's not available. Sometimes it shows up, I guess, and sometimes it doesn't, and it will appear now. For the new business, and we'll have to save it for the next time that we have the meeting, it will be September the 27th at 6 p.m. And we will bring at that time cyber safety, and that's one of the items there. And we also discussed that for the work session, we were going to include the 5G's visitation to that particular legislation. Ms. Kovac mentioned that we're going to include on the work session the pool. My number 4 on the agenda, which was saying and writing, or just writing the name and address for the people that come before council. And the visitation also of the new fireworks law that Chief brought to us. So the next meeting would be September the 27th at 6 p.m. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Recreation, Cable TV, Natasha Metz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a recreation meeting on July 8th, following community development at 2:30 PM. And then I just had a question from a resident that has asked about the peeling on the bottom of the pool. Is that repainted or taken care of during routine maintenance? Is that something that needs to be addressed?
We actually have full painting of the pool scheduled for next year. It's a capital improvement. While it was drained, they took advantage of that and scraped a little and repainted the black lines to sharpen those. But yeah, it'll be painted totally next year.
Awesome, thank you. That's all I've got.
Okay. Services and streets, oh, she's up. You can do it?
Yeah, it's, Service and Streets held a meeting on June 22nd. Just kind of go over, Jennifer didn't forward a report on it, but I'll just kind of go over the highlights. Under old business, we discussed trash issues, just follow up where we are on sidewalk repairs, when the painting of parking spaces is going to occur. And we did an extensive discussion on complaint procedures, particularly property code violations, absentee landlords, that sort of thing, repeat offenders. Also discussed the current process for rental inspections that occur on a regular timetable, and the record keeping involved with the landlords and the village responsibilities. Unless you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, number one is I'm sure I'm not going to miss at all cooking with the cops because I know you're going to be doing the burgers. You are the master of the burgers.
Please.
So I'll be right there. Also, having to do with the streets and services, I know that this is totally weird, but when the announcement and the signs about the sweeping of the streets came about, and how we should not have any cars parked in the streets, for some reason or another, I felt compelled to drive up and down. There were 17 cars that were never moved out of Damon, and I also can give you numbers on different ones because I just did that as a fun thing to do, fun fact. And I think that the reason that some of the people gave was that they have nowhere to put it. So I don't know if the next time that we do the sweeping, if we should perhaps ask them to park for whatever amount of time it is, or have donuts and coffee or something, so they would be to that projected place that would move the cars that way or something, because it was a shame that the effort that our village manager put forth in order to have the street sweeper go through, I mean, some of the areas where it didn't look like anything happened at all, and it didn't. So that's how you might want to discuss that with Jennifer the next time that you guys have a meeting. I know that the next time that is coming is on the other side, where the sweeping maybe,
We'll be here again in the fall.
yeah, maybe we can work something out with that.
So donuts for houses on Farragut, Flanders.
Whatever that section, or whatever it is.
Show your ID.
Yes,
bring your
having it
car.
on the area of the picnic area, the picnic shelter or something, I don't know. But it's a shame because we were wanting so badly to have the street sweeper to go through, and yet it didn't look like in some of the areas that went through at all.
Is it possible to say for 1 week only park on the opposite side of the street? No? Okay.
No.
No. Oh, I confused a lot of people.
No, that never worked. When we used to do it more
We did one
regularly,
time. We did once.
we tried that once, that
Yeah.
didn't work.
That
And
was
it's
a mess.
difficult to get the street sweeping companies coordinated.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
their time frame,
Very.
like, I guess we didn't know he was going to sweep the streets when he swept the streets until like right before the weekend.
Yeah.
Late Thursday.
Yeah.
Just in time to say, get the signs up,
Yeah.
so we didn't really know. And in the end, I think they ended up doing each side in like one day on
No.
the east, one day on the west. Yeah.
Um,
So,
I watched them drive around a couple cars.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a shame.
Yeah.
And then
And
some
even-
people.
And even with the sign, some people may not have been out of the village to come back to see the sign.
Correct.
And I encourage everybody to sign up for the headline news. That's the
Yeah.
best way to get information. And so a lot of people aren't signed up for that.
Did we do a one-call for it?
I think we did.
But we have more people that are on headline news than one call.
I think multiple paths.
And one thing that, and I mentioned it in the meeting, that when we did it in the past, there are a number of places in town that there is no off-street parking. So we told people to go ahead and park in the planting strip in the past. So that's something we can consider this time too. But if the person doesn't get headline news, doesn't read the journal,
Yeah.
Who's on
and
vacation?
get one call, they won't know that to park in the planting strip.
Do we know how many residents get one call and how many residents get the newsletter?
Headline news.
Headline news.
I can look that information up, because yes, we would know this.
Because I think a lot of people sign up for newsletters all the time. I'm not sure they're looked at as frequent. I think hitting, as many cylinders as possible is probably our best bet.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Safety, Melanie Hermes.
Well, mine is kind of a greatest hits because I'm going to repeat everything that everybody else has said. We had our committee meeting today at 5:32. We ended at 5:47, so we had a 15-minute meeting. Myself, Councilmember Walther, Mayor Moore, Manager Kovac, and Chief Futterman were there. The first thing we talked about was parking. Nothing new, just was mentioned that the newest codified ordinance hasn't made it online yet, so we were checking into that. The next thing we talked about was upcoming programs. So Jeff, you get to hear the dates and times of all the programs again. The Know Your Rights
Thank you for the residents to hear.
is Tuesday, 7/19 at 7 p.m. Game Time with GPT, Saturday, 7/23 at 12 noon. Kicking with the Cops on National Night Out is Tuesday, 8/2 at 6 p.m. What I have called All About Drugs, Thursday, 8/11 at 7 p.m. And Personal Safety Self-Defense, Saturday, 8/20, and Saturday, October 15th at 10 a.m. See? And then we talked about the fireworks. The new state law goes into effect. And then we asked if we wanted to update our ordinance, but that was something we wanted to pull the council on because our current ordinance has some portions that are now obsolete because the state law overrides it. So it would make sense to at least clean it up. Our next meeting is Tuesday, 9/27 at 5:30 p.m. I know I spoke really fast, but since everybody covered all my stuff previously, let me know if there's any questions.
Finance and Audit, Jack Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members, at your places is the highlight for the general fund recap, and just to hit a couple of the highlights on that. We had a very substantial month for the month of May, with increase, monthly increase for the month of May of over $53,000. The general fund increase reflected for the total revenues was of $83,000. The general fund balance currently, as of the end of May, is $1,748,893.27. Unfortunately, we're also spending a little more money than we did at this point last year, as the numbers reflect, and currently the percentage of appropriation expended is at 30%, which is running a little higher than last year, but not substantially. There were no transfers from the general fund for the month, However, we will have a couple tonight. Oh, I take that back. We did have that small adjustment.
We
last-
did.
Yeah, last month.
Yes.
My
That little-
apologies.
Yes, we did.
So, but we have a couple more tonight. That's the end of my report, unless there are any questions.
And I forgot to mention that Jennifer's absence was excused. Okay, now's an opportunity for residents and non-residents to make comments solely regarding legislation that's on the current agenda. Non-residents must obtain prior permission. This is the time for citizens to comment on legislation listed on the agenda for this session of council. When recognized, please come forward to the podium, give your name and address, and state your comments. Comments will be limited to 4 minutes. Anybody? All right. Okay, we have no unfinished business. New business, resolution number 2022-14-F. Proceed with the submission of the question of levying a 3.89 mil in excess of the 10 mil limitation for the purposes of current operating expenses for the Village of Greenhills. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 2022-14F, resolution to proceed with the submission of the question of levying a 3.8 mil tax in the excess of the 10 mil limitation for the purposes of the current operating expenses for the Village of Greenhills, Ohio. Whereas the Village Council desires to continue to provide the residents of Greenhills with necessary government services, and whereas in order to continue to provide for the current operating expenses of the Village Council is determined as necessary to renew the current operating expense levy for the village as authorized by Ohio Revised Code 5705.19A of the Ohio Revised Code for the current operating purposes, and whereas the amount of taxes which may be raised within the 10 mil limitations will be insufficient to provide an adequate amount for the necessary requirements of the Village of Greenhills, Hamilton County, Ohio, and whereas the Hamilton County Auditor has certified to the Village Council that the dollar amount of revenue that would be generated by the levy of tax at a rate not exceeding 3.89 mils for each $1 valuation equals $197,260 based upon the total estimated tax valuation of the village of $61,900,950. And whereas the Village Council desires to submit the 3.89 mil renewal current operating expense levy to the electors of the village at the general election to be held on November 8th, 2022. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of Village Greenhills, Hamilton County, Ohio, 2/3 of all members elected thereto concurring. Section 1, that this council and Hamilton County Board of Elections proceed to levy a tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation for the benefit of the Village of Greenhills pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 5705.19A for the current operating expense purposes at a rate of not exceeding 3.89 mils for each $1 of valuation, which amounts to 0.389 for each $100 of valuation for 5 years, in which the levy is a renewal levy of 3.89 mils. It's a mouthful. Section 2, that the question of the renewal levy be submitted to the electors of said Village of Greenhills at the November election to be held at the usual voting places within said Village of Greenhills on the 8th day of November 2022. Section 3, that said tax levy be placed upon the tax list for the tax year 2022, first due in the calendar year 2023, if a majority of the electors voting therein vote in favor thereof. Section 4, that the clerk of the Council of the Village Greenhills is hereby directed to certify the 3.89 mil levy renewal to the Hamilton County Auditor and to the Board of Elections, Hamilton County, Ohio, and to place on the ballot the renewal levy and proceed with the submission of the question of the tax for the electors of the Village of Greenhills. Section 5, that it is found and determined that all formal actions of this council concerning and relating to the adoption of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of any committees that resulted in such formal action were in a meeting open to the public and in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 6, that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its adoption. Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on
I
it?
have questions. Mr. Lee, this is a renewal, which means it's not a new levy. It's a renewal of an old levy. The amount has not changed at all.
Since the 70s, yes.
Since that was my next thing. I knew that it was in the 70s when it first came through. So there were some people speculating that, it's a new levy. No, it's old levy from the 70s that every so often comes up and that we renew it. And nobody has ever thought about changing at this time any numbers. It's the same as in the 70s.
All the levies are on a 5-year
5 years. So.
renewal
Okay, so we can make sure of that, anybody that is listening, that that is the case. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
No increase in taxes. Okay. Clerk, call the poll of the council.
Lee,
Aye.
Hermes,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Halter.
Aye.
Okay, resolution number 2022-14-F passes. Next, resolution number 2022-15-F, resolution accepting the Greenhills 2023 tax budget. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 2022-15-F, resolution accepting the Greenhills 2023 tax budget. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the Village of Greenhills, Ohio, Section 1, that the Council of the Village of Greenhills accepts the 2023 tax budget as prepared by the municipal manager and finance director attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference. Section 2, that this resolution shall be in full force and take effect upon its passage. Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions?
This is just kind of the second step to getting the tax budget to the county, so.
Okay. Clerk, poll of the council.
Walker,
Aye.
Halter,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Hermes.
Aye.
Okay, resolution number 2022-15-F passes. Next, resolution number 2022-16-F, making supplemental appropriations and transfers. Mr. Lee.
Resolution 2022-16-F, resolution making supplemental appropriations and transfers. Whereas the 2022 annual appropriations were adopted on December 14th, 2021, are to be amended. And whereas appropriations must not exceed the total available resources of the village per Ohio Revised Code Section 5705.36A5, therefore an amended certificate of estimated resources have been requested from the County Budget Commission. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the Village of Greenhills, Ohio. Section 1, since certain actions are needed and the monies appropriated to permit the Village of Greenhills to meet its fiscal obligations for the year 2022, the following items of expenditures are to be supplement to the appropriations for expenditures for the year 2022. Fund description, general fund, 1,910.910. Original appropriation was $576,643. Change, 100,000. New total, 676,643. Transfer out. Section 2, that the following transfers of funds have been made from previously appropriated monies. From general fund, 1,000 to Malloy's, account 2910 in the amount of $30,000. From the general fund, 1,000 to swimming pool, account 2909 in the amount of $70,000. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be in full force from and after the earliest date allowed by law. Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions?
Obviously, what we're doing is transferring money from the general fund to the Malloy's building, as well as covering the additional cost at the swimming pool that we all know quite well. So,
Clerk, call the council.
Halter,
Aye.
Walther,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Hermes,
Aye.
Lee.
aye.
Okay, resolution number 2022-16-F passes. Next resolution, number 2022-17-SNS, authorizing the municipal manager to execute an agreement with Rack and Ballauer for the park and ride lot paving improvements. Mr. Lee.
I'm on a roll. Resolution 2022-R17-SNS, authorizing the municipal manager to execute an agreement with Rack and Baalor for the park and ride lot paving improvements. Whereas the following competitive bid process, the lowest and best bid was submitted by Rack and Baalor for the park and ride lot paving improvements. And whereas the Village of Greenhills desires to enter into a contract with Rack and Baalor for the park and ride lot paving improvements. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the Village of Greenhills, Ohio, Section 1, that the municipal manager is hereby authorized to execute an agreement with Rack and Baalor. Section 2, that the finance director is authorized to make payments to Rack and Baalor for the amount of $259,427, unless said amount is otherwise changed through the proper execution of change orders. Section 3, that the resolution shall take effect and be in force from and after the earliest period allowed by law. Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All right, hearing none. Clerk, poll the council.
Walther,
Aye.
Halter,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Hermes.
Aye.
Okay, resolution number 2022-17-SNS passes. Next resolution is number 2022-18-SNS, authorizing municipal manager to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Transit Infrastructure Fund Program and execute contracts as required. Mr. Lee.
I feel your pain, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 2022-18-SNS, a resolution authorizing the municipal manager to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Transit Infrastructure Fund Program and to execute contracts as required. Whereas the Transit Infrastructure Fund Program provides funding for the general construction or maintenance of roads or bridges and related facilities involved in the provision of service by the Regional Transit Authority. And whereas the Village of Greenhills is planning to make capital improvements to the Infield Street and Farragut Road, and whereas the infrastructure improvement herein described is considered to be a priority need for the community, and is a qualified project under the Transit Infrastructure Fund. Now therefore be resolved by the Council of the Village Greenhills, State of Ohio, that Section 1, the municipal manager is hereby authorized to apply to the Transit Authority for funds as described above. Section 2, that the municipal manager is authorized to enter into any agreements with the Transit Authority as may be necessary and appropriate for obtaining financial assistance. Section 3, that this resolution shall be in full force and take effect immediately upon its passage. Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? Keep our fingers crossed that we are successful getting this grant, although the competition's going to be greater
Yeah.
this coming round because a number of people were asleep when the last round happened and didn't put in applications. All right, clerk, poll the council.
Hermes,
Aye.
Halter,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Okay, resolution number 2022-18-S&S passes. We have any council members that want to make any comments or anything before we move on? Okay. Municipal calendar.
September 27, laws and rules, 6 o'clock.
I'm just going to mention the July ones, the Know Your Rights, Tuesday, 7/19 at 7 p.m., and game time with GPD on Saturday, 7/23 at 12 noon.
Community development, July 8th, 2 o'clock.
Followed by recreation at 2:30.
Okay.
And also, there's a concert on the Commons tomorrow night with the car show, and
Right.
there should be some food trucks as well.
Yes. All right, this is an opportunity for residents and non-residents to appear before council. Non-residents must obtain prior permission. This is the time for citizens to comment on matters before council. When recognized, please come forward to the podium, give your name and address, and state your comments or questions. If you have questions, the questions will be recorded and referred to the manager's office for a response. This will allow time for thoughtful and thorough consideration to be given to each question. Council meetings are recorded for ease of transcriptions. Comments are limited to 4 minutes. Speakers may not yield any or all of their time to other speakers.
Monique, you'll notice that I moved the barrier for
I
you.
know. Thank y'all for that. I mean, it's,
I just thought you'd clean
Yeah.
the windows.
I know, it feels better. So, thanks for doing that, yeah. All right. Monique Mason-Halter, 154 Junefield. I'm here tonight again to ask the Greenhills council members to pass an ordinance that would provide, what's going on?
Hold on.
It's
You need to-
starting, just go
Well,
ahead. Just-
Oh.
if you hit the sound off button,
okay. It's working now.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm here tonight to again ask Greenhills council members to pass an ordinance that would provide the maximum power available to our village to regulate the placement of wireless facilities in order to prevent the irresponsible placement of wireless facilities and the adverse impacts they could have on our community. As I've told you at past meetings, other local councils have already passed these types of ordinances, including Amberley Village. I have read from the Amberley Village ordinance before at these meetings and have emailed a copy of it to you so you could review it. Their ordinance also has provisions in it that limit private property owners' ability to install wireless antennas, towers, and base stations on their property. Our village also has the right to pass an ordinance that regulates the placement of this infrastructure. In fact, Councilmember Maria Walther has mentioned at past council meetings that she has talked about this with council members in other communities where these ordinances have passed. Councilmember Jack Lee has explained at past meetings that he is fearful of passing any wireless ordinance. His fears and his stance are unlikely to change. Since Councilmember Natasha Metz is moving, her objection to an ordinance is not relevant. The rest of you seem interested in passing an ordinance. However, it seems that you still lack the confidence to create and introduce the most protective ordinance that Greenhills has a right to have. Your hesitance leaves village residents and business owners in a vulnerable position. The way that I understand it, council members who want to pass an ordinance still only want to pass one based on cosmetic concerns. We have the right to something better than that. Greenhills is a greenbelt community. We want to protect that, right? Being a greenbelt provides even more of a reason to be proactive about regulating wireless infrastructure. Earlier this year, I requested an environmental review by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. I received their report on February 22nd. I haven't referenced it before now because you only give speakers 4 minutes. So at past meetings, I chose instead to read you text from Amberley Village Ordinance, from the Americans for Responsible Technology website for writing a protective ordinance, and a verbal transcript from an experienced telecom lawyer, Andrew Campanelli, who has helped other American communities create protective ordinances. I had hoped that this would provide council members other than Jack Lee with the confidence to write the most protective ordinance possible for our community and get it passed in a timely manner. The ODNR report brings up some points that may be of interest to you, but then again, maybe not. Regardless, if there is no wireless service gap that's been identified in a Greenhills neighborhood, then we have the right to not have it installed in that neighborhood by a wireless provider or a private property owner. The Amberley Village Ordinance has that for their community. You already know this, and I've said it at meetings before and sent you supporting links and documents. I really don't like having to come here every month to ask you to pass a protective ordinance. So every month, when Maria says her prayer at the beginning of the meeting, I pray that I won't have to do this anymore. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Shelley Keating. I live at 66 Ilona Drive, and I'm also here to ask you to pass the small cell ordinance to protect our community. I'm extremely opposed to this wireless infrastructure being installed outside my home. My reasons are also more than just cosmetic. It is a medical and a health issue for me personally. I've taken a lot of measures to eliminate wireless technology inside of my home, and but it's not enough if someone decides that they're going to put a small cell right outside my home, or a neighbor's going to put an antenna a few feet away from me. There are a lot of other residents that I've spoken with who feel the same way I do, maybe not for the same reasons. They don't have the health issues that I do, but they don't come to these meetings. And honestly, I count myself among those people who's just stopped coming because I really feel defeated. I really feel like we're not always heard. The residents' concerns are not always heard. If they're heard, then they're not a priority. But I was given a little bit of hope when I heard that you guys were actually entertaining the idea of passing this small cell ordinance. And that's why I'm coming back today, because I have just a glimmer of hope again that maybe you will do this. But if you do it, I really hope that you do it right, that you do look at the other ordinances of other communities who have ironclad kind of ordinances without loopholes. And if you don't know how to do that, I would encourage you to find someone, a professional who could help you write such an ordinance, because it's really silly to spend all your time to write something that doesn't really protect people. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
The volume button's in the upper, you hit that first and then it'll.
It helps keep us awake.
I feel like it's my dog collar.
Okay, now, our village has the opportunity to, say, not be naked in front of the telecoms, which are commercial entities which are, by their nature, want to spend the exact least amount of money on any kind of installation. We as a village have spent extra money, like on the divider on Winton Road and the trees in it, to try to make our village look more inviting and upgrade the image of it. And I'd hate to see some company come in here and put the absolute cheapest installation of whatever kind of infrastructure that they want to put in that kind of shoots us in the foot with something ugly put in, where we've taken quite a bit of expense and effort to try to improve the appearance of things. Also, with the absence of any kind of ordinance, the telecoms aren't going to spend any money on having anybody spend any extra time on assessing the absolute needs of different installations. And so maybe this will also induce them to say that, hey, these people aren't easy. It's like when my dad had his brother send him, in World War II, he was in the Navy on a ship. He had his brother send him a K-bar knife to wear on his belt so he wouldn't look easy. And so if we don't have any ordinance, we might look too easy. Whereas if we have something, we won't look easy. Maybe they'll take more effort to see what we want. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, anybody else?
Good evening. My name's Kevin Grant. I'm a graduate from Greenhills High School, class of '89. I was planning on coming up here not to talk to City Council in this setting, but I was trying to catch them where we could talk. I'm currently the new head basketball coach for the Women's National D League that's coming here to Cincinnati, called the Ohio Sweepers. I'm going to get together with Winwood's school board, because we're trying to find a place to play our home games. And I went to Greenhills Middle School, the old middle school. And I'm going to talk to them to see maybe if we can play our home games there. Our season starts this November. And I just wanted to let City Council know that I'm trying to work on something like that. I thought that would be great for the city of Greenhills and with Forest Park. My assistant is Alicia Davis, graduate from Forest Park. She played on the first state championship for the girls basketball. Myself, I played at Greenhills. I played for Earl Edmonds. Went to Central State and played. I've coached high school basketball here in Cincinnati for 17 years. I did college for 7. I was the Ohio Kings associate head coach for the men's team, professional team here, and I was the director of operations. So tonight, really, I'm just wanting to let you know what I'm trying to do, and if we're able to get that building, I definitely would like my team to be involved in the community. I do have a player who graduated from Winton Woods who's trying out for the team. And just to let you know on that, we had our second tryout this past Saturday, which was great. Right now, the Ohio team is the only one that's had more ladies try out than any of the other cities that have teams. And just to let you know, it's 10 teams. We're going to play a total of 8 home games and 8 away games starting November till March. Games will be on the weekends. Either we'll play Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Sunday. That's the plan, how they plan on setting it up. The cities are, well, the states are New York, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, North Carolina, Georgia, Minnesota, and Milwaukee. And Toronto's probably going to be the next city joining next year. I don't know if you can say any kind of words to the Board of Education for us.
Have you had any contact with Steve Denny?
Not yet. That's
Okay, that's
my next thing. And
that's
like I
the
said,
thing.
I was planning on stopping by here just to get information.
This is practice. is what
Well, thank you. Like I said, I was stopping by just to get the information, to talk to officers. He's they're upstairs right now. Go up there and talk to them. I'm like, oh, okay.
Steve Denny's the guy.
Okay.
That's the guy.
That's who I'll reach out to. But like I said, this is my way of letting you know that, hey, I think this would be great. And just the spot alone, I think would be great, and even bring more money to the community and everything too. So thank you for giving me this time. Like I said, I'm a graduate from Greenhills. Live in Forest Park still, but you know, this is still, this is still home. Understood. I guess that's really it. I do have a card, so if anybody did want to have any questions or contact me, I can leave you one of my business cards.
And feel free to come back and keep advertising your games, because this is televised.
But thank you for your time, and like I said, I'm going to reach out to him tomorrow, so.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, good luck. Anybody else?
Wait, we know some of the same people.
Thanks for getting rid of that screen. It unnerved me last time. It's hard to do. I just wanted to briefly follow up with what my neighbor Shelley Keating said. I think pretty much what she was describing was what I had been referred to before as conditional use, which means for the small cell facility antenna to be put on a personal property, you have to have a permit and show a gap in service. Now, one of your ordinances that I think was referred to in some of the public record notes that I got from Mrs. Kovac, they were looking at they thought that it was covered under the cable network where you put a satellite on a roof. This is totally different. This is a small cell antenna that is used to generate revenue for the FCC. It's totally different. So anyway, I talked to some of these other administrators about some of these ordinances, and some of the stuff that's in their ordinances is implied because it's more some of the stuff was written up under the control of engineering. So a lot of these, like they consider a small cell antenna like a unique event. I'm not sure if that's a legal term, but if you look in one of the ordinances that I studied, the unique event is that putting a small cell antenna in a property, and it's disallowed. Anyway, I just wanted to follow up and support what she said, because what she's describing is what I have been proposing as conditional use. That's what it is. And it's in some of these ordinances. Now, the Amberley Village was not meant as a gold standard. It was just one that I think was looked at as something that was workable. Anyway, that's all I had. Thanks.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have no executive session, correct? Call for adjournment, meeting adjourned.